Hello and welcome to the One Life Church devotional series where we cover the entire Bible in 20 months. Well, today's chapters are Job 41 and 42. We come to the very end of this book. I'm sitting here on Sea Point Beach, and around about over there's a homeless man lying in his cardboard box. It was one of the things that I have struggled with the most coming down to live here. I mean, this is some of the most expensive real estate in the country. Drive just behind me here and you see the homes, phenomenal, and yet there's a big homeless problem. And I've often wondered of the stories of the people that are on the street. I mean, they were at school at one stage, they had a mom and dad at one stage, how their lives have taken that turn. And basically the story of Job was like that, a man who would have lived in a home like this. He had everything going for him. And then he wound up losing absolutely everything. So this is how the story goes. Just a quick summary. We see a picture in heaven, and God says of Job, there's no one on earth like him. The devil says, he only honors you like this because you've blessed him. Take away your blessing. In fact, he's basically saying to him, you've bought Job's allegiance. So the devil says to God, take it away and you'll see he'll curse you. So God says, okay, we don't know why God allowed that to happen, but Job lost absolutely everything. There he was sitting with his boils and his festering sores, and he had lost his children and his wealth. His wife was even saying, curse God. His friends come along and they sit next to him for 7 days in absolute silence, and then they begin to give their wisdom, saying, well, Job, you've obviously done something wrong, boy. You need to repent, because God wouldn't let this happen to a righteous man. You see, they had this idea of retributive justice, which means, God is as simplistic as a computer algorithm. You just do good things, God blesses you. You do bad things, God curses you. That was their religion. That was their philosophy. Job basically protests, saying, "Look, I'm better than you. That can't be the case, because otherwise everybody would be being abused like me." But then when he gets into the depths of his despair, he starts to accuse God, saying, "God, you need to explain yourself." And he starts getting a little bit stroppy with God. And Elihu, another friend, arrives. And he takes Job on and he says, listen, you can't talk to God like that. And he brings this other aspect that God is like unfathomable. And he also brings a more gracious aspect of God. And anyway, we get to this chapter now after Job has finished lamenting, and God pushes Job up against a wall and speaks out of a storm. But he doesn't answer the things that Job thought he was going to answer. He basically, what he does is he pushes Job into a corner and says, okay, now you answer me. And he gives him dozens and dozens and dozens of questions and of nature. He parades flora and fauna before him and the cosmos and the skies. And he says, do you really think you can understand me? And, this is how Job 41 goes. He says, he pulls out this animal called the Leviathan. This is God speaking to Job. And he says, you can't even understand this Leviathan. It's like a crocodile. How can you understand me? You can't tame the Leviathan. How can you tame me? And then this is Job's response. He says, I know that you can do all things. Suddenly Job sees God's magnificence and his, puniness. And he says, you ask, who is it that obscures my plans without knowledge? Surely I've spoken of things I didn't understand. Job says, okay, now I've made a mess up here. And he says, verse 5, my ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. Somehow in the suffering, somehow in the obscurity of everything that was going on around him, Job saw God, and he saw the magnificence of God. We don't know why suffering comes, but God can use it to open your eyes to see him. And then the Lord said to Eliphaz, so now God turns on the friends, and he basically says, because you have not spoken the truth about me, you've misrepresented me. I'm not the simplistic algorithm in the sky. I'm not like a pinball machine. You can't just hit buttons and expect a response from me. He says, you've misrepresented me. You better ask Job to pray for you. So here's Job festering with his sores, laying his hands on his friends, making sacrifices for them, and God is gracious to the friends. After Job had prayed for his friends, then this is the most incredible twist of the tale of the story. God gives Job back everything. Kids and wealth. And you think, well, how's that? Because this whole book has been saying you don't just behave right and God's going to bless you. No, God's much more magnificent than that. And so God does. He blesses Job. And Job then responds generously. He gives an inheritance to his kids. Beforehand, Job was like a miserly, cautious patriarch who would make sacrifices in case his kids stepped out of line. Now, he's giving his kids generous names. He's giving them inheritance. He's become more godlike. This book is full of mystery. We don't understand suffering, but we do understand this. God is faithful. God is generous. God is graceful. God can't be understood. He can't be explained. The way I like to look at it is that this is my iPad. If I look so close up, I can only see a little portion of it, and it obscures my whole view. That's what man is like, running around on earth. But as you look at it from God's perspective, your little bit of suffering is in a much bigger picture. God is gracious. He was gracious to Job. He's gracious to Job's friends, and he is gracious to you and me. God bless you.